Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. I am your host. My name is Tyler. On today's episode, we're going to continue to talking mental health stuff, and we're going to continue with down that road. On today's episode, we have a guest with us. She's going to share with us her experience, her background. We're going to talk a little bit about eating disorders and some autism, and a little bit of other things. We'll see what happens. So with that, I'll give you our guest for a second here. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the people?
Yeah, so my name is Kesley. I am 27 years old, and I am a licensed professional counselor for the state of Tennessee, but I physically live in Alabama. And I own my own practice, and I've been doing this about a year with my own practice, but I have about 8 years of experience in the mental health field altogether.
Okay. Nice. So what led you to the mental health field?
So I am one of those rare people who knew from like 15 what I wanted to do. So I did a dual enrollment class for psychology, and I immediately knew like that was something that I wanted to do.
So it was always kind of your calling in a sense.
Yeah, always knew.
All right, so let's just kind of jump into some stuff here. So eating disorders, right? So this is something that we don't, like we were saying before we started this, it's kind of a taboo issue. In a sense,
Mhm.
you'll either hear somebody say, "Oh, I have an eating disorder," and they kind of brush over it as a joke, or we don't talk about it enough, right? So
Mhm.
when was it that you first realized that you were struggling with the eating disorder?
So I was probably 20, 21, and I was in grad school.
Okay.
So like the introspection of my graduate program really led me to be like, maybe this is something that's going on with me.
So you kind of diagnosed yourself while going through school.
Um, well, I would say it was more of something that was in the back of my mind. And then I started like having some struggles with just like family dynamics. And so I went to a therapist, and she was like, "What's your relationship like with food?" And I was like, that was like the mic drop question. Like it was just, "Oh, wow, like you really just this is our first session and you're calling me out like this. You don't even know me." And so it was basically like from there, like we talked in the before we started recording, like it was such a hard acceptance period. Like for me, there was a lot of the imposter syndrome of like, well, now how can I be a good therapist? Because like I had anxiety, but like a lot of people experience anxiety. So I was like, oh, I can still be a therapist with anxiety, but how am I supposed to be a therapist with an eating disorder? Like, how am I supposed to be good at my job? And then also like just the acceptance of like, yeah, this is an eating disorder. I think for me, my story is a little bit different than a lot of people, because I actually had weight loss surgery when I was 11. So a lot of people like don't really have that same story, but for me, it started very young, and
Well, let's
nobody
go.
talked about it.
Well, let's go back to that, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not going to brush over that. So, at 11, right? So we're going into a weight loss surgery. So how did we
Yep.
get there, right? Like let's walk through that. How did we get there that at 11 we're having this surgery?
Yeah, so I had been on diets the majority of my life. Like, I cannot remember, not saying that there wasn't a time, but I physically have no recollection of any time that I was not on a diet and restricting my eating in some ways. Whether that was like only 100-calorie snacks, like whether it was like a really strict diet or like a not so strict diet, I was always on a diet as far as I can remember. Um and yet I was still overweight. So it was like I felt like, now looking back and the things that I've processed with my therapist, like I felt like I was the problem and not like my weight and me were the same thing. Like it was not two separate things, it was the same thing. And so I felt like I was a problem that needed to be fixed. And so any doctor that said like, "Oh, you should try this," like, "Oh, you should try this," it was pretty much like a guarantee that I was going to tell my parents that I would try it.
So, so when we're in that age, right? So these are definitely the school age time frames,
Mhm.
right? So how is this affecting like your self-esteem and your mental health that way? And what does the eating disorder look like at this time?
At this time, it's mainly just restriction with also binging. So I also would hide food a lot. Like that was the main sign, knowing what I know now, that there was something going on. And my mom was aware that it wasn't something that was good, but she didn't, like, everybody brushed her off when she would bring it up. Like, I even went to a psychologist, and they were like, "Oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. Just, like, don't let her have access to food." And it's like, that's not the answer.
Yeah, that's a terrible
Yeah,
solution.
right.
Okay. And this went on for how long?
Oh, like, forever. I mean, I, back and forth. Like, so, no matter, even now, like, I'm still not always 100% honest with my mom and my family about like what I eat. Even now, so like fast forwarding to 2 years ago, I had my lap band was the surgery that I had. So I had it reversed 2 years ago. And because I was having a lot of reflux issues, it was also like almost 14, 15 years old at that point. Those weren't things that were meant to last in your body that long. And so I had it removed about 2 years ago, and even on Father's Day, that was the last like holiday I had at home, I just didn't feel safe eating in front of my extended family. Um, because there was always judgment about what I was eating and how much I was eating. Even when I had the lab band and could not eat near as much as everyone else, there was still judgment, I felt like, from extended family. And so now with like my immediate family, I'm pretty open about what I eat and I will eat in front of them and stuff. But if we're going to extended family gatherings, I'm more of the person who just like stays busy in the background, helps with the kids, like does anything but like eat, especially if eyes are on me. I'm not the person sitting at the table with everyone else like eating a meal. Like that's just not something that I have been comfortable with.
Well, I mean, is it real judgment or is it your perception of the thinking that they're gonna judge you?
Oh no, it's real.
Okay, fair.
I mean, would they always say something? No, but I mean, there were many of times growing up and even like recently that it's like, "Oh, well you ate that. Like that was a lot." Or like, why did you eat dessert instead of eating the meal or whatever? And it's like you don't know, I could have ate before I came here, or like whatever. It was always judgment on like how much I was eating instead of like just enjoying fellowship and company, which is what it's supposed to be about, right?
Right. So in a sense, like your relationship with food and the has caused you to not even really enjoy food anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point now I'm able to enjoy things more. Um, the people who the people who I'm closest to and the people who know me, I am able to enjoy going out to eat, doing those sort of things. But my extended family, who does not understand eating disorders, who is not would not even like accept that I had an eating disorder, won't even accept their own mental health issues. Um, they are the ones that I don't feel the most comfortable around. So, like, when I was in grad school, I had to do a geneogram, and nobody in my family admitted to having any anxiety or depression, even though some of them have been to doctors and have been on medication and been to therapy.
Right.
And they were so worried that this professor that they didn't know and they were never going to meet was going to know that somebody in my family had anxiety or depression.
Well, tell me. All right. So with this and like eating disorders are rather, they're not new, but they're rather rare to like me, right? Because like I
Mhm.
said, like I've been doing this a long time, but we don't get many people that walk in that admit to it, and you kind of got to uncover. And I think maybe I've dealt with like one or two in the last 20 years
Yeah.
in our world, and I deal with substance abuse too. So my world is more of like they don't eat because they're smoking meth.
Yeah.
You can't really eat food while you're smoking meth.
Right.
So they're on a weight loss program,
Yeah.
right? So with this, right, like what is like, I guess in a sense, like what does the recovery look like for eating disorder?
I think for everybody it can be different. So for me, I had already started straying away from a lot of the behaviors when I got to the point of like fully accepting that what I had was an eating disorder. So the depending on what level you're at, like depending on the severity of things, some people need inpatient, and then also some people don't. Like I've never been inpatient for an eating disorder. Um and then but like I went through a lot of therapy. I did a lot of reading. And a lot of changes to how I saw food, how like I wanted my relationship to food to be. Um, and I really feel like for me that final dose of freedom really came with like the removal of my lap band because that was like freedom I never experienced before.
Hmm, interesting. Um, why? Explain that. Like, what? Why? How so?
So it's kind of like when you have, particularly with the lap band, um, I could not eat certain amounts without being sick. So if I went to a restaurant and ate a full adult meal, I would be throwing up in the bathroom before the meal was over. So that was where a lot of the confusion for me came in as a provider is this an eating disorder or is this like because of the lap band? And so for a lot of times, a lot of my years, I just kind of pushed it off of this is a lap band issue. Like I'm just having difficulty with that. Like I don't want to throw up because I didn't, but I didn't also understand the other side of like eating disorder side of things too. And so there were no true like when people consider like look at binges. So a lot of times binges will look like ordering multiple meals at a fast food restaurant, coming home eating all of the combos yourself, like plus eating like anything else in your house that you may want at that time. Like it looks like a large calorie intake, but for me, a binge may only include like 600 calories. Because so for a lot of people, like no, there were never any red flags. There were never any red flags because I wasn't eating large amounts of food because I physically couldn't.
Right.
And so acknowledging how that looks in my body versus looks in somebody else's body is totally different because our DSM does not cover like what happens if somebody has a weight loss surgery,
Right.
like how that presents itself. Um so I think ultimately like recovery can look different for a lot of people, but eating disorders is one like is a high death rate. Um which is scary. And a
Well,
lot of people don't realize that.
you only really ever hear about like the binge eater, right? And like
Mhm.
you don't really hear about like I guess you hear about anorexia when it's like too late, when it's like
Yeah.
okay, my God, you need to eat because now your ribs are showing and like now this is out of
Hmm.
control. Um, you
And
don't
in celebrities a lot. Like we see it in
celebrities,
celebrities, but like,
correct. You don't hear
is
about
that our
the
real life?
well, you don't hear about like the bulimia, right? Like
No.
you don't that one's not talked about too much um where you are throwing up to for that and how that becomes an addiction all on its own
Hmm.
too. So um we don't so like recovery when we're talking recovery from eating disorders like we don't really hear about them because they're not talked
No.
about.
But also, like, the bizarre thing is a lot of commercial insurance will pay for inpatient for one of two things, like voluntary inpatient, and that's substance abuse and eating disorders. So, but the majority of people don't know what that recovery even looks like to know where to start in the process.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, like it's rare that we've ever seen one come through
Hmm.
on our end. All right. So with us, right, like so we talk about substance abuse a lot. So like one of the
Yeah.
questions that like I usually always ask people, like, what's a hard day look like for you, right? So, um, but with you, right, because you got anxiety too. So
Hmm.
anxiety plus eating disorders, what does a hard day look like for you?
I think now a hard day looks very different than a hard day when I was 15, 16. I would say I was pretty high in my eating disorder when I was 15, 16. Um, and I think a hard day now looks more like having to force, not like force, like shove food down my throat, but like make myself eat, even though I may not be hungry. I also have a lot of chronic health issues. I have an autoimmune disease. I have migraines. I get nauseated a lot.
Did you get
And so,
glasses? I only say that because like dude, I would have these migraines all the time, and like I've never been to an eye doctor, so I go to an eye doctor, and they're like, here, you need glasses. I put these glasses on, and like one, the world looks so much crazier now that I can see
yeah,
everything, and two, I've not had a headache since I've put these glasses on.
wow, that's great. No, sadly, I do not need glasses. I have perfect vision. Um, but that was a lot of my health issues started when I was in rampant eating disorder, which people would look back and say, like if you ask my extended family and people who knew me then, they would say I was at my healthiest then, but I wasn't. Like it's so obscene. But now I would say like having to make myself eat and make myself like, hey, you need to go eat breakfast. Like there's an internal dialogue in my head that is like, hey, you haven't eaten. Like you should go eat. Or hey, you can't take your medicine until you go eat, so like go eat. And then I would say like a family dinner or going out to eat with people who don't know me. So even if I'm going to meet new people, um, going to a work conference, I'm always worried that somebody's going to make a comment on how much I'm eating. Because even now, I don't eat a lot. So, even after having the lap band removed, my hunger cues are not existent pretty much for the most part. I more so have cravings than hunger cues. Like, I don't actually, like, get hungry really. Like, my body doesn't tell me that I'm hungry. Um, and then I also still do not have the appetite of like a normal person the majority of the time. And so even now I worry like, is somebody going to comment on that's where the anxiety part comes in. Like, is
Right.
somebody going to comment on what I'm eating? Is somebody going to comment that I'm not eating? Is somebody going to say something? Um, because I don't, I think for a long time I didn't realize that a lot of people just don't care.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the reality. Is a lot of people really
Yeah.
don't care. I know. I've Yeah, I've never looked at somebody and just been like, "What are you eating? It's a little too much." I'm usually looking at people like, what are you doing? Pass the dip over here. Like, I want to, I
Yeah.
need to slurp my bread and that stuff. Um, so what's some of the misconceptions, right? Because like I can tell you um, so like hearing your story, right? Like one of the things like that I think you hear a lot of is like you hear people that are trying, right? And you hear like people that are like, hey, I'm changing my diet, I'm not eating that much food, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, but I'm struggling to lose weight. And then you have those group of people that are like, oh, you're lazy. Just get off your
Mhm.
ass and go hit a gym, or you're being lazy, right? So like what is the misconceptions that from your end, and like how do you deal with them?
So for me, it has taken a long time, and obviously there's still that anxiety sometimes of like, no, you're lying to yourself, like that's not true. But I've just came to accept that I don't know what my like my body is does the exact opposite of what anybody else's would be doing in this situation. So as I said, I still do not eat the amount of a normal person. And I'm still overweight. Like I am a semi-active person. Like I sit most of the day for my job, but a lot of people do. But I walk, like I go on hikes, like I do a lot of things, and I eat less than the average Joe, but I'm still overweight. So like there's so many misconceptions that people with eating disorders have to be like skin and bones, or people with eating disorders like have to look a certain way, or is it people with eating disorders have to be female? Like that's one of the biggest ones is like
Yeah.
there are so many men that are struggling with this and nobody's even asking them questions about it because like it's like society says that it's majority women. And so those are some of the biggest misconceptions is that body size has anything to do with whether or not you have an eating disorder. I think for me, that was the longest. By the time that I accepted my eating disorder, I had gained a lot of the weight back that I had lost by having the lap band. So now I'm an overweight person who is saying, oh, I have an eating disorder. And I was fearful of the judgment that would come from that. So there's a lot of people in my life who still now don't know that I have a diagnosed eating disorder. And there's even people who, like some of my best friends, who it took me years, even after accepting that I had it, to be willing to tell them because I was fearful of, like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to be said? A lot of my weight image things were secret. So, like, a lot of people did not know I had lap band surgery. Like, a lot of people did not know what was going on for me behind closed doors. Um, I went to a small private school and I graduated with 24 people in my class. One of them knew that I had an eating disorder, and or one of them knew that I had lap band surgery and that I was disorderly eating. Like, but also it benefited them because they just ate my leftover food. So, um, but none of the teachers knew. Like, nobody knew that I had lap band surgery. And so when then I started healing from that, I was like, how do I tell my story when people don't even know half the story?
Right.
So it's very hard to, like, when everything's been done in secret, and I feel like that's how most people are with their weight because it's a secret. So it's hard to be able to tell that story and be able to admit to those things openly and to people around you when, like, everything's been a secret.
Well, I mean, that's the key to recovery, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I know, like, we talk about this on the daily, with substance abuse and with mental
Mhm.
health and everything in general, is like, there has to come a point in time where not only are you, like, not only do you start learning to be honest with yourself, you have to start being honest with other people and start explaining, like, this is what this is. This
Yeah.
is what this looks like. This is why, I'm triggered and I do this or that. Like, I know for me, like, um, I don't necessarily have like the eating disorder, but I know for me, like, if I'm really like emotionally just feeling drained, I'm over here like, all right, give me 5 Big Macs and like let me just smash some food for a while because food, like to me, food solves all the world problems. Food
Yeah,
and coffee.
food brings comfort.
Yeah, food and coffee, right? So, and I'm from a family like my grandmother. I mean, that's what she did, right? She showed us she loved us by like, here's all this food I cooked for you, right? And like
Hmm.
that's usually where the negative comes in, right? Is because it's like, oh, this person loves me because they give me all this food, right? And that plus like I grew up poor, so like hunger pains, right? I'm like, I'll never experience that. I'll just eat constantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Food insecurity is huge.
yeah. Like and that's why like you see a lot of people that hide food and everything too. Um,
Yeah.
so what? All right. So coping skills for it, right? What are some of your coping skills? Because you're going through a lot here. You're not just going through
Yeah.
like eating disorders. You're going through the anxiety. You're going through the fear. Like it's very fear driven on like, oh man, this person's gonna think this, or even like even people's intentions,
Yeah.
right?
So I think as far as coping skills, a lot of them depend on the situation. So I think on the days that I'm just not feeling the best about myself, I always try to do something that will help me to feel better about myself. So if I know that like today I'm just not like feeling the best, I don't feel like I look the best, I'm gonna take a little like extra time to put into myself. Um, Whether that be like doing my hair, wearing like something different than like leggings and a t-shirt, like doing something a little bit extra to make sure that I feel like fulfilled in myself. And I also have a playlist that I listen to that really helps like me to put things into perspective of like one, I'm not the only one that's struggling in this situation, but also that there are like actual music about this now. There was not music that I remember growing up listening to that was about eating disorders.
Yeah.
And so now like that, even though some of the music actually like is talking about people actively in eating disorders, it helps me because it like puts it in perspective of like, hey, like look how far you've come. um I think for me, a lot of the physical symptoms get me down. So, like having the nausea, having like not wanting to eat, not having an appetite, like those sort of things really frustrate me because I just want to feel like normal. And which is not, there's nothing normal. Like we know that there's like not a level of normal, but like physically, I just want to be able to eat like everyone else. And that was the majority of the problem like my whole life was I just wanted to be able to eat like everyone else. When I was younger, it was I couldn't eat like everyone else because I was on a diet, and then it was like I had lap band surgery, and then I was on a diet and had lap band surgery, and then now it's like I can't eat like everyone else because the lap band like messed up my appetite and metabolism. And so it
Right.
I think that has been something that I really had to cope with. And so I have things like affirmations that I remind myself about. And some of them aren't really specific. I think in the beginning it was something that was like more specific things that I would tell myself, like facts about eating disorders that I would remind myself of. Whereas now it's more so just general things depending on whatever I'm struggling with that day. Like if I'm struggling to eat, I'll be like, remember like food is fuel, and you want to be there for your clients, so you need to be able to eat to show up for them. Or like, hey, you know that ADHD medicine's not going to work if you don't go eat something. Like Or
Well, I mean that
um
so that's interesting you say that, right? Because that also proposes an issue, right? Because
mhm.
ADHD, um, there's plenty times where there's times where like my girlfriend will have to be like, I didn't see you eat today, and I'll be like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I forgot. And
Yeah.
now it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to even eat today, and like now I'm cooking, and so and for the people that are listening that are so-called normal, nobody's normal. Like if you're watching my
Yeah.
channel, you're
No.
not fucking normal. But so that's just real. So
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, right? Like so, like the so-called normal person though, they don't have to be reminded to eat. Like they get hungry and they eat.
Yeah.
ADHD, I might forget and be like, oh wow, I can't believe I forgot. How'd you forget? I don't know. I had coffee and like a Snickers bar, and like for some reason I thought I ate dinner. I don't know, but I got busy.
Yeah.
I got busy.
Yeah. A lot of times it would hit me until I started putting it into my routine, and that's what really helped me. Like, I have found with my ADHD that routine is like one of the best things for me. I, like, before that, I would be like up at night, like not being able to go to sleep, and it would be like 11, 12, 1, like you were talking about, and it's like, I just cannot go to sleep. Like, why can I not go to sleep? And then I would be like, huh, like kind of checking in with myself, and I'm like, I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah.
And so I'd go get something to eat, and then like immediately after I ate, I would be able to go to sleep because my body's like, oh yeah, you got what you needed. Now like we can rest.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that happens a lot. Like to me,
Yeah.
um, which is also bad, right? Because at the
Yeah.
same time, um, from a health point of view, like you can't, you're not really supposed to eat a bunch of food and then just go to sleep immediately because
Right.
that doesn't do well for the metabolism and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22.
Yeah. Now when I've realized it, I've tried to like eat something smaller and then like make myself stay up like if I miss dinner, and that's why I'm not as hungry because I get busy with work. Like sometimes I do forget it's going to happen. Like
Right?
ADHD, that's what happens. So I'll try to like eat as soon as I notice it. I will be like, oh, like, hey, it's 9 o'clock. Like, try to notice it earlier than like 10. And then, like, also try to stay up a little bit longer afterwards to try and make it like not as bad on your health. Um, I think also like your body needs that fuel to be able to go throughout the day and to sleep. Like you have to have fuel to have good sleep. So if you don't eat dinner or you're not missing or you're not eating lunch, like whatever that may look like, you're not going to be performing your best.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
No.
I have to remind myself of that.
Yeah. I do too. Right? Like
Yeah.
I do too. That's just part of the ADHD. So, how has all of this affected your personal relationships with people?
I think a lot of it has grown, some of my personal relationships. So some of the people that I just decided, like, you know what, like, this isn't gonna be a secret anymore. Like, this is not gonna be a door in my mind that I keep closed off to people. The majority of those people, like, my relationship is deeper. Like, my relationship feels more emotionally connected because I'm not hiding a part of myself. I think there's still a lot of people in my life that don't understand it because maybe they're not going through it, or like they haven't gone through it, or like they're just not willing to accept it for themselves. So I think that that's another thing, is it really made me see like some of the disordered eating things that other people also do. Um, and a lot of where those habits came from. So, one of the first people that I really admitted that I was struggling with this from was my mom. And I immediately like told her, I was like, I am not like putting blame directly on you, and I don't want you to think like this is not something that you should feel guilty for, but I think it's something that you should check yourself for, because I feel like a lot of these things came from habits that I learned as a child.
Yeah.
And so I think that that was something tough, obviously, for a mom to comprehend, but I knew that it was something that I had to tell her, and I tried to be like as gentle as I could. And now, like, I am able to have the conversations with her that like, hey, this is going on, or she'll actually like ask me like, hey, like, did you eat today? Or like things are somewhat in a like more open place to where she does like encourage more healthier things. The same things with the other people that know. Like once I tell them, like it was almost like an immediate sense of relief, not only because of the emotional comfort that came from it, but also like now they can check in with me. Like my friends are able to say like, "Hey, did you like we're talking and it'd be like, "Oh, hey, did you eat today? Like you're telling me all this stuff you got done, but it sounds like you hyper focused a lot. Did you eat?" And so I think that that's really helpful for me to have that support system. Um, I do feel like the missing piece to my current support system, and this is something that I've been talking to my therapist about, is just somebody else who is also like in recovery for eating disorders. Like I would like to have a closer relationship um, with
Okay.
somebody who is also
Have
in
you
recovery.
have you ever looked at Overeaters Anonymous?
Yeah, so the problem, like for me, is a lot of the groups are all online now. So also when this was going on, like was the middle of when I first like started realizing like I had an eating disorder, it was like right before COVID. So then once I got to the place where I was like, oh, I want to go to groups, then it was in the middle of COVID, so everything was online. And now that it's after COVID, most of the thing like there aren't many for my area
Yeah.
that
Well, most things
so
just stayed online too after
yeah.
COVID. Like we see that with with the recovery programs, where
Hmm.
they were just like, well, now we can just reach more people. Let's just stay online, and like it makes
Yeah.
it a little more difficult.
Yeah. It makes it a little more difficult to build those like deeper connections, and also like there you want like sometimes you just want to be able to go out to eat with somebody who has experienced the same things you have. And so trying to find those people, I think is like a goal that I have for myself, is like finding that community. Um but that's definitely something I would recommend to people too, is like one, find your support group, but then also find a support group of people who have been through the same thing you've been through, because there's some things that family and friends just aren't going to understand.
Yeah, I mean that's critical for everything. I think
Yeah.
we talk about support groups quite a bit here on this show. Um, so somebody who's listening, that feels stuck in the shame and the guilt that's associated with eating disorders, like what would you say to them? Like how do you help them?
I think like the biggest thing is just remembering that you're not alone. Like you're not the only one that's dealing with all of the things, um, all of the symptoms, all of the thoughts, all of it that comes with it. You're not the only one dealing with those things. And also just reaching out for help. Like, um, there are a lot of different support groups online now. And so trying to find something that maybe works for you. A lot of the support groups you can just sit there. You don't even have to interact. So, um, sometimes that can be all you need to really like motivate you to work more on yourself. And so is just seeing that everyone else in the group is also going through something similar than you are.
You got private practice.
Yes, I do.
Are you doing like telehealth and stuff yet?
Yes. So I only do telehealth. Um and only for Tennessee right now, but I'm getting licensed in some other states too. So,
Okay. Well, yeah, so, but the people in Tennessee that may be listening,
yeah.
right? How do they find you?
So my website is DENNEY dash counseling. So it's Denny Counseling, denny-counseling.com. And then I'm also on like Instagram with the same name too, so you can find me there. But my website is probably like the best way to get in touch with me because it has my email and stuff on there.
Okay. So while we were sitting here talking and I'm watching the minutes go up, right?
Mhm.
Think what I would like to do is, so I know like we started this episode off and talked about how like we want to talk about like your experience with autism.
Mhm.
I don't think that's something I want to blow through.
Yeah. No, for
So
sure.
I think what I would like to do, um, so the month of July I'm not doing shit for this, right?
Cool.
But
Yeah.
not, at least not till the end of the month. But so I think what I would like to do is bring you back on to do a whole nother episode on just that. Because like
Mhm.
I don't think we would do it justice if we talked about it for like 10, 20 minutes and then it was like, okay, now have a good day, and it's not going to be good for the
Yeah.
listener. Um,
No. Agreed.
so yeah, so I want to bring you back on to talk about autism and like your
Okay.
experience with that and like working with that and the spectrum of that. So I would like to do that. Maybe
Okay.
maybe we'll just air them back to back and we'll just say eating disorders part one and this part two. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, let's do that.
There's also a connection with eating disorders and autism too.
There. Okay, tell me about that. Real. Tell me about. I'm curious about that because like I have somebody close to me and like that.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
So similarly, in the same way that ADHD people for like get hyper focused and don't eat, the difference with people with autism is that their like senses, just like they're like overstimulated, if their senses are understimulated, that means their body's not telling them the things that are going on. So a lot of times people with autism, like for example, when they get sick, they're like, it's not just like a sinus infection or a cold, it's like they have like bronchitis or pneumonia because like they don't realize it till they're really sick. And so it's the same thing with like eating, like they don't, a lot of times they don't recognize that they're hungry until they're really, really hungry. So then that can end up leading to like binges or other things as well. And then also just like disordered eating altogether because they don't have that like sensation of feeling full. Like they don't know when they are full a lot of the times. So because of the way like the autism brain is formed, a lot of those things that would be like going off in our head that's like, oh, you're full. Hey, like you can stop eating now. Like they don't, a lot of those things aren't going on at the same time, especially if you're doing like multiple things at once. Um, so they really do experience some eating disorder things too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess in a sense, like most of America deals with it, right? I don't know. I won't speak on the rest of the world because I don't know, but
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
and especially culture-wise, right? Like depending on your culture, like like I know, like in our world, like we can't get together and not eat. Like you've
No.
got to eat when you and like my grandmother, for example, like she would tell you straight up, like and then we call it an old wives' tale, but like at the end of the day, like there was something to it. My grandma would always say, when she like when a friend would come over to the house or something, she would offer them food.
Mhm.
If you
You
don't,
can't turn it down.
if you turn it down, you can't trust that person. Get them the fuck out of the house, right?
Mhm.
And because that's how important food is, at least to like our culture and like the culture around it. So like that's been ingrained in me. So
Mhm.
like, like my girlfriend, she'll have her friends over or whatnot, and I'm cooking for everybody because
Yeah.
that's just ingrained in us. I mean,
Yeah.
food, I think, especially here in America, it plays such a negative role, I think, in everybody's life in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
But it can also play a really positive role if you allow it to, because it is that thing that brings a lot of people together, but it's like the disordered part that comes along with it. I think like here in the South it's kind of the same way, like in Alabama at least. Um, if we get together like we're eating, and if you're going to somebody's house and like you don't accept their food, then like there will be judgment and it will be rude.
Yeah.
Like you'll be considered that you're being rude. And I think for me that was a big struggle, having the lap band because I was like, I can't tell them my whole story, but also like I can't eat their food. Um, so it was like a lot of that cultural things too play a factor into disordered eating and eating. So yeah, I think America
Yeah,
has a
I
long way
mean,
to go.
cultures and subcultures, right? Because like even
Mhm.
in the recovery world, like our subculture, like is coffee, right? And
Yeah.
like with like coffee, which I should work on a coffee sponsorship, but coffee is like coffee is like a big part of it, right? Because like you
Mhm.
go into like any meeting or anything like that, there is a coffee pot so people can get coffee. We're constantly drinking it, and like at the end of the day too, the next thing is after like any recovery meeting is always, hey, you want to go get something to eat? Or like, let's go over to the restaurant and get some coffee. Well, no, we're gonna order
Yeah.
appetizers and cheese sticks and all that fun stuff. You know,
Yeah.
so I think every culture with the subculture and so on and so on and so on. So it's always included. So and that's probably why it's hard to recognize that these eating disorders exist.
Also because you have to have food. Like
You do. You do.
it's
I don't
something that
need
you
to have
have
heroin.
to
I need
live.
food.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing. So, all right. So listen, I'm gonna have you come on again, and we're gonna talk about autism.
Cool.
All right. Cool. So, as always, right? You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you chose here. It's been 50 some minutes. You've chose to sit here and listen to us talk. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you did not get something out of it, everybody and their brother has a podcast. So go find it and get it from there. I don't care how you get it, as long as you get it. We just want you to get help, and learn to live another day. That's all we care about. So if you can't get it from me, go get it from somebody else. We don't care. Just get it. Um, there are other shows on the channel. Watch them if you want. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate you for watching. We appreciate you for listening. And you have a good day. And cue the cat eyes. Have a good night.